Hello, this is Patty's Corner. Welcome to Patty's Corner. I'm going to be reading a very nice story out of one of my books. It was nice to be someone else's blessing. When you live a life every day dependent on God for everything, and surprises and miracles He sends your way never cease to amaze you. Many times in our lives, we have depended entirely on answered prayers from God. We asked the Lord for something we needed, and we thanked him in faith, believing he would answer. And when he supplied it in the ways that we would never have expected, it always seems almost surreal. Once you have experienced miraculous answers, your mind begins to digest God truly orchestrated it from the beginning. It is so amazing. When we yield ourselves to him, I am so thankful he is able to use us. I especially love the days when he orders our steps so we can become his hands and feet. We walk in total faith, believing the moment he needs us, we will know. The amazing part of this story was on this particular day, he ordered our steps to become someone else's blessing. My husband Glenn and I had gone to the local grocery store to do our midweek shopping. To pick up those few things you need that you forgot to place on your list in the time when you was there earlier. We made our way through the store, and we kept passing the same young couple in each aisle, going the opposite direction. As happens to be in the grocery store, that happens often in a grocery store. Normally, I say, "Now look, we have to quit meeting like this." We usually both chuckle and move on. This particular couple had a very small newborn in a car seat perched on top of the cart. I felt very drawn to them, and as I commented how cute their baby was, they thanked me and moved on. I assumed I was merely relating to them because we had twin babies at home. Our twins were only 1 year old, and their big sister and brother were taking care of them for the short time we were to be gone. If you've had a baby, you will certainly understand what a treat it was to simply get out, even for just a few minutes, without a child in tow. We had two infants, and a trip to the grocery store or taking a walk to the mailbox was always a nice change of scenery. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about here. As we approached the checkout, we noticed the same couple with the adorable infant was in line directly in front of us. As they got to the register to pay for their groceries, I couldn't help but notice all they were buying was one pack of hot dogs, one loaf of bread, and 2 cans of infant formula. This young man reached in his pocket to get money to pay for his purchases, and I watched him sheepishly count it, and then he put 1 can of the formula back. It was at this moment I realized their purchase of bread and hot dogs was going to be their supper for the next few nights. Today was Wednesday, and I surmised most likely he would not receive a paycheck until Friday. I realized this young man had just made a painful decision. Having twin babies myself and knowing the cost of formula, I knew these kids needed help feeding their precious baby. It was at this moment I also realized the unused formula I had in my cupboard was the exact same brand that he had just removed from the conveyor belt and placed it on the side. I'm reading this as I go along. On a nearby shelf, before it reached the cashier. My twins had been switched to whole milk, and we had several cans of formula because I didn't know anyone to give it to. Since I didn't have the receipt anymore, I couldn't return it, and I kept it on hand just in case we knew somebody might need it sometime. In the future, in my heart, I knew eventually we would find someone who could use it. It was so expensive. It really was. We were certainly not going to throw it away. We hoped it would be a blessing to someone down the road. Well, at this point, that all came together in my mind, and I realized God, in His great wisdom, had placed us in a position to be a miracle for someone else. Being a mother and a brave soul that I am, I tapped the young man on the shoulder, and I was trying very hard to word this correctly so I would not offend or humiliate him. And I said, "Excuse me, sir. I couldn't help but notice the brand formula you use to feed your baby. At birth, my twins were placed on that too. About a month ago, the pediatrician switched them to whole milk, and I have about 20 cans left of that same formula. The date has not expired, and if you could use it, I would truly love to give it to you. Let me tell you, that young man lit up like a light bulb. His answer to me said, "Are you for real?" I said, "I assure you, I am." He quickly took the other can of formula that they were going to purchase and placed it on the side shelf with the first one. He said, "Yes, ma'am, we could sure use it." I explained to him where we lived up the road, right on the main highway, and if he didn't mind following us home, Glenn would bring it out to him. After all, we didn't want him to think they would have to enter a stranger's house. It's sad, but this is the world we now live in. Having walked in the shoes of need often enough ourselves, this was one time we could be a blessing to someone else. I think we were as happy as they were. In fact, I'm sure of it. They followed us to our home, and Glenn retrieved the box of formula from the bottom of the kitchen cupboard. When Glenn handed it to that young man, I saw the look on their faces displayed of very grateful hearts. They were just a young couple, maybe 20, 18, 19, 20. As he accepted the box from Glenn's hands, he said, "Lady, you have no idea what you have just done." I replied, "Oh, I think maybe I do." I simply smiled as they put it in their car. In my heart, I knew that God had just allowed us to provide about a month's worth of food for that newborn baby girl. They thanked us and told us they were Christians. They belonged to a church many of my own cousins attended and had been praying for God to help them. This experience let me know just how orchestrated God's ways truly are. As they backed out of the driveway, I could still see the smile on their faces. Being a mother myself, I even knew this hot dogs was going to taste extra special. I just knew. I also knew because there was enough formula for the house to feed their baby for a month, they were going to sleep much better that night. I believe they did. I am sure it also taught them that Jesus heard them and answered their heartfelt prayers. We didn't just happen to be there. We just didn't happen to show up at the time that they did. It was orchestrated from God. Until the moment I tapped on his shoulder after the can of formulas that they were buying were gone, he had no idea where they would be feeding their baby. For a child that young, it may last a day or a day and a half, but Jesus saw it all. And with that precious couple knowing it, he ordered out, without them knowing it, he ordered their steps that day. They were totally unaware of the blessing that was coming. They simply walked those ordered steps, and together a miracle happened because we walked those ordered steps too. The Lord ordered our steps that day. I love it when God shows up. After about 33 years, I no longer remember their names as I write this. I can still see the smile on their faces. It still warms my heart to know how God brought it all together that day. If you will pray for him to use you, he can orchestrate a miracle. Ask him to order your steps, and when the need arises, God will allow you to be a blessing to someone. He will allow you to be the blessing like he did us that day. I wouldn't trade these surreal moments for anything in the world. By giving to others, you are the one who receives the greatest blessing. That baby is now probably married with children of her own. I know my twins are, although only one of them has children at this time. Time flies before we know it. We still pray for God to work through us, and every day, if there's another need we can help fulfill, we always try to remain sensitive so that any given time we can convey God's love and become his hands and feet to our world. I believe he's going to empower us to help many this coming year. You don't know who may need your help, strength, or compassion. However, Jesus does, and he sees your willingness to answer his call. Keep your heart and mind open because you never know what day that he will order your steps to become someone else's miracle. His ways are amazing. Days like this will warm your heart for a lifetime. Psalms 34:8. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good, because he is. I hope this will bless you in Patty's Corner today. Be aware. Ask God if there's something that you want me to do today. Step into it and just willingness. That's how you step into it. Say, God, if there's something special you want me to do today, show me what it is. Let us somehow walk the steps you want us to walk to make it happen. And it does. Sometimes it really just blows your mind because you ask because you really meant it. He knows your heart and He helped you to be someone else's blessing. That day, we helped that boy and his little wife. They were just a young couple, maybe 18, 19, maybe 20. I don't think so. Baby was about 6 months old. And it was just amazing to me how it happened because we didn't need it. We didn't throw it away because we didn't want it to go to waste. And I said, well, maybe we'll figure out something. Somebody will be able to use it somewhere, maybe. And sure enough, somebody could use it. So just be willing. When you want God to use you in a miracle, all you have to be is willing. Not even knowing it's coming, really, because that day we didn't expect that to happen. I prayed over that formula. I said, God, help us to get this that somebody really needs it. That was like a week earlier, and sure enough, it happened. He will order our steps if we will ask Him and allow Him, even if it means changing our plans just slightly from what we were going to do. God will help us. I hope this has been a blessing to you. I thank God every day that I am able to share my books. They're available on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, all over the world. They are You Ask God for What? The second one is No More Crumbs, Eat What You Will from the Master's Table. And the third one is The Other Side of Broken. And now God has opened the door and given me that little tap that I wasn't really wanting. And I guess I'm going to finish this book. It's called And You Thought It Was Over? It was quite amazing how it came about, but I have started. I've got 7 stories written, all true stories, all miraculous. God will use you. Just make yourself willing, open yourself up, and ask Him to use you, and He will do that. And I hope that this blesses you this day. Have a blessed week.